Welcome back to the Reading Roulette, episode 13.3, where I give you my feedback of the last book that I pulled. If you follow this series, you might have seen that the last book that I pulled out of my jar was Babel by RF Kuang. This has been one of my most anticipated reads and one of the oldest books on my TBR list. I knew that anything having to do with languages was very close to my heart, and I knew that I would love this. Let's jump back to the beginning. I predicted that I would rate this book 4 stars. In this book, we're following Robin, our Chinese immigrant main character, who essentially gets taken from his diseased hometown and brought to England. He is raised with the purpose of mastering different languages so he can one day attend Oxford's Babel institution, where he can help with languages. They're putting together this dictionary, they're working on translating, and they're doing silver working, which is the only fantasy element of this entire novel. How silver working works is you grab a piece of silver and you speak corresponding words or phrases into it from English and another language, and certain languages no longer work, which is why Oxford and England is reaching out to Far East cultures. These silver pieces then get this magical power inside them, and this is essentially what they're using for electricity and power in this universe. So yes, technically it is a fantasy, but honestly, the fantasy portion is such a small element in it. What I would classify this as is very astute social commentary on how immigrants are treated, especially immigrants of color. How often immigrants, sometimes against their will, are brought into a country, they're exploited, they're used. Their work is what builds this new system, but they don't get the credit, they don't get the appreciation, and they always have to deal with the prejudices. There are, of course, a ton of shady things going on at Oxford, and how they're treating these people is suspicious. There's also a secret society, and I'm not going to spoil anything. What I will say is the social commentary on this hit very close to home. The portion about race, about how these immigrants are lower class, but they're still categorized into different subcategories, if you will, on whether or not you could be white passing. This is something that we can see in the everyday world nowadays, especially in the US as it happens. I thought the concept of this book was so interesting. The characters are very well developed. Nobody's one-dimensional. Everybody's a little bit good, a little bit evil. Everyone has multitudes. Everyone is having secrets, these inner dialogues, these thoughts. Despite my prediction, though, I ended up rating this book 3.25 stars. And that is only because I felt like there was a lot of fluff in it and a lot of it dragged for me personally. Yes, this is a 500-page book, but I have no problem getting through books of this length. This, however, took me almost 3 weeks because I found myself being not interested, being more drawn towards other books. And then once I picked it up and like something would happen, I would be back on it and I would be engaged, but then it would lull again. Now, I'm aware that this book has a cult following, and I definitely can see why. I would recommend it if you like her writing, if you like this academic setting. And the actions at the end like really picked up, and that really made it worth it. The payoff was good and it ended